Hello everyone, today I'm going to be teaching you how to make a Roblox donation board. Basically, I'm going to teach you how to set up this UI and show you how to script it to where a user can click on a button to donate, and when they donate, they will be added to the donation leaderboard, where you can display the top 20 players who have been donating to your game. It goes over some very common Roblox APIs that are used in a lot of games, and I highly suggest you watching this video if you want to learn. So let's jump into it. So before we get started with anything, there are a couple of things we do need to do for everything to work properly. The first thing we need to do is enable Studio access to API services. This is so we can use the Roblox data stores to store player donations. So to do that, you just go to File, Game Settings, Security, and toggle Enable Studio access to API services. And as it says, it enables Studio access to game services such as data stores. And then click Save. And now in order to create developer products, we need to publish the game. So make sure your game is published by doing File, Publish to Roblox As, or Publish to Roblox, whatever you prefer. And then make sure you publish it. I'll just publish it under Test. So now we're going to be able to use the Roblox data store, and we're going to be able to create developer products. Now I'm going to show you how to create developer products if you don't know how to do that. So you just go over to your Roblox homepage and you click Create. Now currently this is the new creator portal. Go ahead and click on the creation that you want to add the developer product to. And now under associated items, go to developer products and create a developer product. I'll go ahead and name this one 10 Robux Dono, and I'll make it 10 Robux. And so I'm going to go ahead and do this for 50 Robux, 100 Robux, 500 Robux, and 1000 Robux. Because obviously you want people to donate in tiers. So if they want to donate more, they have the option to buy a higher priced developer product and donate more to your game. Now I'm going to go ahead and set up the donation board itself and create the UI with the donation list, all the people who have donated to the game, and I'll go ahead and create the buttons so people can donate through the board. So I'll go ahead and just insert a part. And now I'm going to go ahead and use a surface GUI, and I'll put in a frame. And I'll set its background transparency to 1. And now just to make things positioned a little bit better, I'm going to go ahead and insert a UI list layout. And I'm going to set the horizontal alignment to center. This is going to help center my elements in the board a little bit better. So you'll see that whenever I enter in this text label that I'm going to use as a title, it already centers it for me. And I'll go ahead and scale that up a little bit. Now I'm going to insert some UI padding. This is just going to add some space around all the elements. So on the top, I'll just add 15, and same on the bottom. And I'll add 15 to all of them actually. I'll add a UI corner. I'll actually bring this up a little bit. And I'll just make this look nicer. Now I'm going to add the list of donators. So I'll go ahead and insert another frame. And to move it down, I'll go ahead and add padding in my UI list layout. And I'll just set this to 0.1. Actually a little smaller, 0.05. And the frame is going to take up the rest of the board, so I'll just size it accordingly. And I'll go ahead and name this list frame. And then I'll add a UI corner. Now inside this list frame, I'm actually going to insert a scrolling frame. And this will allow there to be a long list of donators that the player can scroll down and see top to bottom all the people that are donating to your game. And now there is one setting I'm going to go ahead and enable, and this is the automatic canvas size. I'm going to go ahead and set this to Y, and you'll see why we do this later, but this is going to make sure that whenever you add more and more users to the leaderboard, it will continue to scroll down without you having to change the canvas size manually. And trust me, this is a really nice setting to have. Now inside the scrolling frame that we created, I'm going to go ahead and insert a UI grid layout, and then I'll go ahead and insert a frame. I'll name this frame Donator, and just so I can see it better, I'll make the background like green. I'm going to insert a UI corner, and now what this UI grid layout will do, it will allow us to set a style, meaning we can define the width and size of each frame that we insert into this. So I'll go ahead and set the cell size. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a few things into this donator frame. I'm going to insert a text label that will display the user's rank. So the person who's donated the most to your game will have a rank of 1. I'm also going to insert an image label to display a little headshot image of the user who's been donating to your game. I'll have the player's name, and I'll have the amount that they've donated to the game. Alright, so just to recap, I have my surface GUI, I have my frame. Inside my frame I have a text label, which is the title, just to show that this is a donation board. Then I have a list frame, and inside my list frame I have a scrolling frame with a UI grid layout, which defines the width and height of anything that's inserted inside of it. And what the scrolling frame and grid layout do together is whenever I duplicate this donator frame, it just continues to add them more and more underneath each other. So all we need to do now is insert another part, and I'm going to go ahead and anchor these. Make sure your boards are anchored. And I'm going to create a little board with the donation options. So again, I'm going to insert a surface GUI with a frame. Then I'll add another title over here. And then inside the frame, I'll insert another frame. And I'm going to position it down a little bit. I'll go ahead and insert a UI grid layout. And then here I'm going to insert some text buttons. And so I have 5 buttons, so I'll go ahead and duplicate this. So I'll have 5 buttons. And again, it will be a button for each donation tier. So I have 5, you might have more. But again, that's for a 10 Robux, 50, 100, 500, and 1000 donation developer product. So for each developer product you have, make sure you create a button. And I'll use this UI grid layout to define the size of my buttons. And now I just want to work with one button right now, just so I can set how it looks. And now to make sure that they are displayed properly, I will go ahead and set a layout order for each of these. And now I'll go ahead and update each of these to reflect the developer product we have. And now I'm going to name each of these buttons as well, just so we can keep track of these a little better. And that's it. So everything is set up how it should be. This is the UI, and now I'm going to show you how to hook up everything to code so the user can donate to your game, and then their name will be displayed here according to how much they're donating to your game. So under server script service, I'm going to insert a module script, and I'll name it donation module. And I'm actually going to go ahead and set up the data store. And for our donation board, we'll be using the ordered data store that Roblox provides. And this is great for displaying ordered leaderboards. So at the top of our script, I'll just do local data store service, and I'll do game get service data store service, and then under that I'll do donation store data store service, this variable we just created, get ordered data store, and then I'm gonna name mine donation store. And that's it. We've set up the data store. It's pretty simple, thankfully. And so I'm going to create a module function. So I'll do function module, and I'll name it set up Dono board. It won't take any parameters. And what this will do is it's going to get the top 20 players in our data store, and it will set up our donation board with that data. So basically we're going to be copying what they have. We're going to have a descending top 20 player leaderboard. So similar to this, is ascending will be false. Our page size will be 20. And then we'll call that data from our ordered data store. So we'll do local is ascending. We'll do false because it's descending, meaning we're getting the top players. Then we'll do local size, I'll set it to 20. And now you do pages, because whenever you call this data store, it will return it in pages. So all we need to do is donation store get sorted async, and then we pass in is ascending and the size. Now since we're getting the top 20 from the data store, we don't need to pass in a minimum value, and we don't need to pass in a maximum value. So these last two parameters can be safely ignored. We'll just pass in these first two, which is ascending and page size. And now we want the first page, so we'll just do local top 20, and we'll do pages get current page. So here we'll do for rank data in I pairs top 20. Here we'll do local player ID, and this is going to be equal to data.key, and then the amount is going to be data.value, and this is going to be the amount that the player has donated to the game. So now we have the player ID and the amount that the player has donated to the game. To get the player, all we need to do is game.players get player from user ID and pass in the player ID, and we have our player. And now we just need the username. So we'll just do player.name. So next I want to get a profile picture of the user. So to do that, I'm going to do local avatar image is ready, and I'll do game dot players, and then I'll do get user thumbnail async, and you have to pass in 3 different parameters. The first one is going to be the player ID. The next one is going to be thumbnail type, so I'll do thumbnail type, and thumbnail size. So now I'm going to go ahead and define these. And the way we do that is we do enum dot thumbnail type, and I'm going to go ahead and do avatar bust. So this is the chest up to the head of the avatar. Now I'll do thumbnail size, and this is enum thumbnail size, and I'll set it to size 420 by 420. And now we have our avatar image. So next what we want to do is we want to take this donator frame and we want to move this into our module script. That way for each player we can go ahead and do local dono frame equals script dot donator clone, and then we'll go ahead and update these different values we have in the frame. So we can do dono frame dot rank is equal to the rank which we pass in from the data store here, and sorry, that's rank.text actually. And then we'll do dono frame dot amount dot text equals amount. We'll do the same for username. And now for the thumbnail, we'll use the avi and we'll do dot image, and we'll set that to the avatar image. And then next, just to make sure that this stays in order, I'll do dono frame dot layout order, and I'll set this equal to rank. And then we'll make the parent equal to game dot workspace. I'll go ahead and name this Dono board. So it will be game dot workspace Dono board dot surface GUI frame list frame, and then it will be placed under the scrolling frame. So there's one correction we need to make. Unfortunately, whenever a player is returned from the database who is not in the game, we cannot get the username from that player, but there is a way we can do this by calling a player's API. And the way we'll do that is we'll set up a helper function. So I'll just do local function get player name, and we'll pass in the player ID. And now just above this, I'm going to define a table and I'll name it name cache. This is just going to store names that we've already retrieved from this player API, just so that we don't end up calling the API twice for the same player ID. And what we can do is we can do local name from cache, and we can go ahead and check if the player's name is stored in this table. And if it is, so if name from cache, then we can just return that. Otherwise, if the name is not found in the name cache, we need to make a call to the Roblox players API. So we'll do local name, and we'll do local success, comma, underscore, and then we'll do a p call. So then we'll do an anonymous function here, and we'll do name equals game dot players get name from user ID async, and then we'll pass in the player ID. So after this p call, we'll do if success, then we're going to go ahead and store this player's name in the name cache. So we'll do name cache player ID equals name, and then we will return the name. And if it's unable to find a name at all, I'm just going to return an empty string. So here under username, we want to call this function we just created. So we'll do get player name, and then we will pass in player ID. Now what we want to do is code the donate buttons. So I'm actually going to name this Dono buttons. And we actually want to move this surface GUI into starter GUI. And now under the properties for our surface GUI, for the donation buttons, we'll set its adorne to the part that it was on originally. This is just so that the player can interact with the buttons. The buttons need to be on the client side for the user to click on them and for local scripts to execute. So I'll go ahead and add a local script into the frame with all of our buttons. And I'll go ahead and create a variable for our marketplace service. And all I need to do is game get service, marketplace service. And I'll go ahead and do a for loop. So for button in pairs script dot parent get children, do if button is a text button, then, and now above this I'm going to insert a function. So local function prompt Dono purchase, and I'll pass in the amount. And as you see over in the Explorer, I've gone ahead and named each button to the amount that the player will be purchasing. So I'll go ahead and do button dot mouse button 1 down. I'll do connect, and then I'll pass in this anonymous function here, and we will call the prompt Dono purchase with the button's name. So if I click on the 10 button, it will go ahead and call this function over here with 10, since that's the button's name. And now I'm going to go ahead and set up a table with my developer products. And I'll go ahead and create an entry for each amount that I have. And now if you remember, we created these developer products under our game, under the associated items. And so all we need to do is pass in this ID that you can see here at the bottom of it. So if you go ahead and click on it, you can go ahead and grab that from the URL. And I'll go ahead and do that for each of these. And sorry, these actually need to be numbers. So take the quotation marks out if you did add them. And now here under marketplace service, I'll do local player equals game dot players dot local player. And now all we need to do is prompt the user to purchase the donation dev product. So all I need to do is marketplace service prompt product purchase. And all we need to do now is pass in the local player. And then we pass in dev products. And then we'll go ahead and pass in the value from whatever amount the user is buying. And now actually go ahead and add quotations here. I did forget to do that. Since the button name is actually a string, it will be looking for a string key. And now whenever I go in and test it out, and I click on a button, it should prompt the user for a purchase. So now we want to detect when a player purchases a donation dev product. So under our donation module, I'll insert a script and I'll name it dev product purchase. And again, all we want to do is connect to the marketplace service. And then we'll create a function, local function, and we'll name it on product prompt purchased. And we'll pass in the player, the ID of the product, and then we pass in whether or not it was purchased. So now we actually want to call this function when the player purchases the product. So all we need to do is marketplace service, prompt product purchase finished, and we'll connect this to our on product prompt purchased. And make sure you remove those parentheses. So we're going to do local product info, and we'll do marketplace service, and then we'll do get product info, and we need to pass in the ID, which is the product ID, and then we'll pass in enum info type product, and we'll do local price equals product info price in Robux. Next, I'm going to hop into our donation module, and I'm going to create a function that we can call from our dev product purchase script. So I'll do function module update player dono amount. So we'll pass in a player, and we'll pass in the amount that the user is currently donating. So if you remember, we're storing our donation amounts with a player ID and the amount that the player has donated. So now what we want to do is get the current amount that the player has donated and update that and add in what the player is donating right now. So if you remember, we're storing our donation amounts by player ID. So we'll do local user ID equals player user ID. So now we're going to call our database with the user ID, and the way we do this is local success, and then we'll say current amount. This will be the amount that the player currently has in our database, and we need to do a pcall with an anonymous function, and we'll do return donation store get async, and we'll pass in our user ID. And then here we just need to increment this by the amount that the player is donating. So we'll do current amount plus equals amount. And then we just need to do donation store, and then we'll do set async user ID, and we'll pass in our new updated amount. Now obviously if a player is donating to our game, we want to update the leaderboard. Just in case they are at the top, they want their new amount to be updated. So up here I'm going to just create a little helper function. So I'll do local function clean up leaderboard. And here I'll just do for Dono in pairs. I'll do game.workspace, Dono board, surface GUI, frame, list frame, scrolling frame, get children. I'll do if Dono is a frame, then Dono destroy. And then after that, I will call our module setup Dono board. So what this cleanup function does is it deletes all the current listings on our donation board, and it sets them back up just in case there's been a reordering of the players and their amounts. And then we'll just call cleanup leaderboard. So what this will do is we'll get the player's current amount in the database, add to that, and then update the leaderboard by calling this cleanup leaderboard function. And now all we need to do is whenever someone purchases a dev product, all we need to do is call the donation module. So we'll do local donation module require script.parent, and all we do is donation module update player dono amount. We'll pass in the player and the price. Now there's one thing we need to fix actually. This event actually passes in a user ID rather than a player. So all we need to do to fix this is change this from player to player ID. And then all we need to do is local player equals game players get player by user ID and pass in player ID. Now for the last thing, we want the donation board to be filled in whenever the game starts up. So I'm going to go ahead and insert a script under donation module, and I'll name it setup board. And all this will do is call our donation module setup function. So I'll do donation module equals require script.parent, and I will call donation module setup Dono board. And so now we have a donation leaderboard set up where a user can choose the amount to donate. They'll then purchase the developer product, and it will update the amount on the leaderboard. Thank you so much for watching my tutorial. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below and I will try to help you out as much as I can. Please like and subscribe if you're able to, and I'm also going to include some other videos that I've made here on the screen. If you find them interesting, I suggest you check them out. They're also very good for beginners. Again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.